Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the patriotic riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. Well, we won a battle, but the war is far from over. Perhaps you weren't even aware, but Trudeau's war to control your food intake included labeling ground beef and pork as dangerous to our health. Amid outcries from burger lovers across Canada and a very reasoned campaign by the meat-producing sector, Health Canada abandoned the initiative. Can you imagine grocery shopping to make some spaghetti, only to have a warning label on the meat for the sauce screaming that there's fat in the ground beef? Such is the level of control over our lives these left-wing extremists are attempting. This was but one battle. The war is still on. We need only look at Holland, where the government has decided nitrogen, not carbon dioxide, is arch enemy number one. Just across the pond, that government is forcing cattle farmers to kill off animals because of their urine. 30% of Dutch beef farmers are slated to be shut down. Think of what 30% reduction in supply will do to the price. Ground beef in Canada has gone from $1.99 a pound a year ago to $3.49 a pound. First, it was their belching and their flatulence for the methane. And now it's another bodily function as natural and a necessary part of the ecosystem as plants respiring oxygen. Unless you live in a farming community, you may not be aware of the global nitrogen shortage. Nitrogen is a key ingredient in fertilizer. It's also part of the air we breathe. A number of nitrogen production plants are offline. Russia is a major source of fertilizer production, but this is a time when nations have stopped trade with Russia because of Putin's mass terrorism and wholesale slaughter of civilians in Ukraine. When farms were smaller, cattle manure was sufficient to enrich the soil for planting crops. It's still spread over the fields today, but there's just not enough to go around. Incidentally, when methane was the culprit of the day, European farmers put dairy cattle waste into digesters, which captured the methane and was used to generate electricity. The Clazy farm near Forster's Falls brought that technology to Ontario. And the sons of the two brothers who pioneered the system locally are the second generation to turn cattle waste into electricity. When Ontario hits the wall in electricity capacity over Trudeau's maniacal race to net zero, and we're faced with rolling blackouts like the very woke California, every method of electricity production will be needed to meet demand. Downtown Ottawa residents won't have to worry about a tractor occupation, a combine siege, or an insurrection of manure spreaders because the farmers can't afford the fuel. Remember that next time you see the price of hamburger in the grocery store and start choking. Over the past few months, many Canadians, as well as visitors and people just passing through our country's airports, have experienced net zero's effect on those Trudeau is punishing over air travel. Make no mistake, this is not an international phenomenon. It was his draconian lockdowns, then his petulant mandates, and continuing with stubborn refusal to cancel the use of the ArriveCAN app. Trudeau is wreaking chaos internationally, though, When flights are delayed in Canada, with planes sitting on the tarmac for a quarter of a day or more, it means flights returning abroad are carrying passengers who will be missing flights at other airports, thereby perpetuating the chaos around the world. The solution is to return to pre-pandemic travel rules and staffing levels and ending the mandatory use of the ArriveCAN app. Add a fast-track lane for those who use the ArriveCAN app instead of herding everyone together regardless of ArriveCAN compliance. It won't take long for people to catch on. The impetus behind all this comes down to Trudeau's religious doctrine to save the planet. Last week, we learned Trudeau's Hammurabi Code for Public Transportation and Heating, officially known as the Fuel Standards Regulation, has been delayed. It means he won't come near his zealous net zero goals he crowed to the world about. To compensate for the delay, he's throttling air travel for the great unwashed, everyday Canadians like us. Only the anointed ones with private or government jets are worthy of the privilege of unimpeded travel. It's also more difficult to control the public when they visit other countries, experience new freedoms, then return wanting the same freedom at home. Those of you who receive and read the updates on Parliament I send in the mail, those whose letter carriers actually place the newsletters in their mail slots, know about the fuel standards regulations. It's the craze to phase out fossil fuels even before electrical capacity to shoulder the extra needs is in place. Be aware, though, in 2025, forecasts are that demand for electricity, at least in Ontario, will exceed the supply. Prepare for rolling blackouts. The rationing of electricity, it's now the norm in places like California, where the climate extremists rule the day. Trudeau abandoned national security by abandoning our energy security. He was croaking about phasing out the oil sands as an election promise even before he was first elected. Now that the world is in crisis, Canadian fuel producers will not put the money into investing in higher production because they know Trudeau's just going to kill it later on down the road. Canada, the clean energy superpower, has been rendered dependent on murderous regimes for fuel and vulnerable to attack on every coast should the world take a terrible turn. The radical socialists at the anti-Canadian hate network have once again demonstrated their true colors. This is a taxpayer-funded organization. It uses your tax dollars and the uncritical, illiberal legacy media to sow hatred and division. I've mentioned on my program in the past, this group is dangerous. The chair of the organization spread disgusting anti-Semitic propaganda on Twitter and claimed it was from the Freedom Convoy. It gives a platform to the self-described radical socialists and members of Antifa. Remember, it was an Antifa terrorist who rammed a truck into Freedom Convoy participants. This was the same organization that labeled entire communities in the Ottawa Valley as being hateful. The goal of this organization is to paint any opposition to socialism as racist. That's why they go after the Freedom Convoy and the March for Life. Now, these dangerous radical socialists are trying to indoctrinate children. They've prepared an anti-Canadian hate manual for kids. It teaches children that the flag, which tens of thousands of Canadians fought and died under, the red ensign, is a hate symbol. This taxpayer-funded hate manual for kids also claims the Conservative Party has been infiltrated by super racists. This is another conspiracy theory cooked up by Trudeau's army of social media trolls. This anti-Canadian hate network is dangerous. In order to justify its existence and their gravy train of Canadian tax dollars, they have to empower racists. These radical socialists want to give the racist socialists a veto over our country's history and symbols. Now, I've mentioned before, this is the same game the international socialists and national socialists played in the 1920s and 30s. There was no real differences between fascists and communists. They were power-hungry thugs. They used one another to justify their thuggery. Now it's the same types with a new postmodern spin. This Trudeau-founded hate network elevates obscure online figures and turns them into media celebrities. The haters take silly or stupid memes and claim memes represent an extremist movement. Now the government wants to hand over a veto to these fringe weirdos. If some Nazi puts up a red ensign, it doesn't turn the flag into a Nazi symbol. It means this Nazi is stupid. Is so stupid that he's flying a flag worn on the uniforms of people who killed Nazis. Why would anyone want to give a stupid Nazi the power to decide what a symbol means? Unless they need the threat of Nazis to score tax dollars from gullible liberals. Canada is the most open and multicultural country in the world. We're the most tolerant, least racist people on the planet. But Justin Trudeau and the anti-Canadian hate network want you to think that this country is tainted by the original sin of capitalism. They want you to think that until we eliminate private property and hand total control to the government, we'll forever be a country of racists. Remember, the radical socialist and racist socialists need one another, but we don't need them. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant.